At 2:35 in the afternoon on March 18, 1925, the clock on the wall of Murphysboro's Longfellow School stopped. Not because someone turned it off, because the tornado hit. The walls came down. The roof went first. 17 children died in that building before the minute hand had moved again. Murphysboro, Illinois, a coal shipping city of 10,000, had just met the deadliest tornado in American history. It had started 2 hours earlier in the hill country of southeastern Missouri, near the tiny town of Ellington. No warning, no sirens, no forecast. The Weather Bureau had a standing policy against using the word tornado in any public communication. They believed it would incite panic, so the official forecast that morning had called for nothing more alarming than rains and strong shifting winds. A farmer named Sam Flowers rode out toward Ellington that morning on business. His horse came home after dark, alone. Sam's body was found 3 miles outside of town around 4 in the morning. He was almost certainly the first victim of what would become known as the tri-state tornado. What crossed those 3 states was not a normal tornado. It was an F5 equivalent monster carrying winds near 300 miles per hour, moving at an average forward speed of 62 miles per hour, and peaking at 73. It never truly looked like a funnel. And witnesses described it as an amorphous rolling fog, a boiling cloud on the ground. Most people didn't run because they didn't recognize what they were seeing until it was already on top of them. In 3.5 hours, it carved a path 1 mile wide and 219 miles long through Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. The longest continuous tornado track ever recorded. It killed 695 people, injured more than 2,000. Left thousands with nothing, no house, no neighborhood, sometimes no family. If you want to see how a brand new machine, still fresh from its patent application, helped the survivors put 219 miles of catastrophe back together over 8 brutal months, please hit that like button. See that subscribe button? It's our exchange, your way of saying this reached me. Not about the action size, but its meaning. Hit it if this resonated, drop a like if it moved you, and comment your thoughts on this story. So I want to go deeper. Join the membership for exclusive 20-plus minute videos where we explore these ideas further. Let's complete this circle together. Back to the wreckage. The town of Gorham, Illinois, population 500, took the tornado at full fury. When it passed, 37 people were dead. 250 were injured. That's half the town's population either killed or hurt. The grass had been ripped from the ground in the gullies on the east side of town. Not the buildings. The grass. Then came Murphysboro, then DeSoto, where 33 of the 41 people killed were school children trapped when the building came down on top of them during a direct hit. Then West Frankfort, a mining town where the Peabody Mine's 80-foot coal tipple, a structure weighing several hundred tons, was picked up and rolled by the wind. 102 people died there. In Griffin, Indiana, the entire town was obliterated and then cut off by flooding for days. So that survivors couldn't even get help in or get out. Princeton, Indiana lost 45 lives and a quarter of its buildings before the storm finally exhausted itself and lifted northeast of town at 4:30 in the afternoon. Total property damage, $16.5 million in 1925 dollars. In Murphysboro alone, 154 city blocks were destroyed. Fires broke out after the tornado because the water mains were gone, and firefighters tried using dynamite to create fire breaks in the rubble. After the tornado. After the fires. After the floods. Someone had to clean it up. Here is where the story becomes something extraordinary. There was no organized federal disaster agency in 1925, no FEMA, no structured emergency management. The task of clearing hundreds of miles of wreckage fell to whoever was willing to show up with whatever equipment they had. The Illinois National Guard mobilized. The Red Cross arrived and set up tent camps for the homeless. Pullman railroad cars were brought into Murphysboro to house the incoming medical teams and cleanup crews. Relief trains carrying supplies ran from St. Louis within hours of the strike. Though some towns were so remote, it still took until 6:30 that evening for the first train to reach Annapolis, Missouri. By then, people were cold and without shelter. But the debris, that was a different kind of problem. This wasn't a few downed fences and some broken windows. The tornado had scoured the ground itself. At Sedgwickville in Missouri, debris from the town was found almost 50 miles away. In Princeton, entire rows of houses had been lifted and relocated. The wreckage of 695 lives worth of homes, businesses, schools, and rail yards was scattered across a corridor stretching from the Missouri Ozarks to southwestern Indiana. And it needed to be moved, all of it, by hand, by horse, and for the first time in any large American disaster, by crawler tractor. This is the detail that stops you cold when you look at the timeline. On January 6, 1925, 10 weeks before the tornado struck, the United States Patent Office officially issued patent number 1522378, filed by James Cummings, a Kansas farmer, and J. Earl McLeod, his draftsman. Well, the patent was titled Attachment for Tractors. It described a large metal blade that could be bolted to the front of a crawler tractor to push earth, rubble, and debris, what we now call a bulldozer blade. And in August of that same year, 5 months after the tornado, the Holt Manufacturing Company and the C.L. Best Gas Tractor Company would formally merge to create the Caterpillar Tractor Company. The tri-state tornado cleanup happened at the exact hinge point of mechanical history. Well, the tracked crawler tractor had been in commercial use since the early 1900s, with Holt's gasoline-powered machines grinding through California farmland and World War I mud. The Caterpillar 60, a 60-horsepower crawler tractor that would become one of the most capable machines of its generation, entered production in 1925. Lay Plant Choate Manufacturing of Cedar Rapids, Iowa had already been fitting blade attachments to tracked tractors since 1923. But when they built the first commercial bulldozer for work on the Dixie Highway in Kentucky, these machines existed. They were real, and when the tri-state disaster demanded that 219 miles of destruction be physically moved out of the way, they showed up. Cleanup crews in Murphysboro worked block by block, street by street, starting from the worst of it and moving outward. Steam shovels bit into collapsed brick walls with their cable-operated buckets. Holt crawler tractors ground through splintered lumber, twisted rail track, and compressed rubble that horses and men simply could not move fast enough. The Mobile and Ohio Railroad yards alone had employed close to 1,100 workers before the tornado hit. The roundhouse and machine shops were gone. 35 people killed in the fires that followed. Clearing just the rail yards was a project unto itself, requiring machines heavy enough to move warped steel and tangled freight cars off the tracks. A tractor with a blade could push a collapsed house frame to the edge of a lot in an hour. The same job with hand tools might take a crew all day. The machines didn't tire. They didn't need to stop and process what they were seeing. There was a practical, almost brutal efficiency to it, and in the context of 154 destroyed city blocks, that efficiency was mercy. Our survivors watched the crawlers work and understood something that would take the rest of the country decades to fully absorb, that when the scale of destruction exceeds human hands, the machine is not optional. It is the only path forward. The coal mining regions had their own resources. At West Frankfort and in the fields of Franklin County, the mines already maintained fleets of heavy equipment for moving overburden and operating tipples. Some of this machinery was pressed directly into service clearing the debris from their own towns. In the rural stretches between communities, farmers used their own tracked field tractors, still more common than crawler blade combinations at this point, to pull wreckage from fields and push collapsed outbuildings aside so that land could be replanted before the growing season was gone entirely. The reconstruction took 8 months. And 8 months of crawlers and shovels and horse teams and tens of thousands of hours of manual labor. Murphysboro rebuilt a city from the ground up. Othello Silvy's family built a new house on the exact footprint of the one the tornado had taken. Identical in every detail, as if insisting that what had been there before still deserved to stand. Gorham rebuilt. West Frankfort rebuilt. Princeton rebuilt. Some of the smaller communities along the track never fully recovered. Some of them are quieter today than they were in March 1925, and the people who know that history know exactly why. The tri-state tornado changed two things permanently. It pushed the Weather Bureau toward finally abandoning its absurd ban on the word tornado in public forecasts, a change that would eventually save thousands of lives through the warning systems we have today. It demonstrated the catastrophic cost of leaving communities without any organized structure for disaster response. And it proved, in the most devastating possible test case, that crawler tractors fitted with pushing blades were not a novelty item for highway contractors. They were indispensable. The Bulldozer had just received its patent. The Caterpillar Tractor Company was months away from formally existing, and yet the machines were already there, already working, and already moving the wreckage of the worst tornado America had ever seen. The Bulldozer didn't need to wait for anyone to tell it what it was for. Murphysboro already knew. There is something worth sitting with in all of this. The same month that the deadliest tornado in American history leveled everything in a mile-wide corridor across 3 states, the piece of paper that defined the modern bulldozer was sitting fresh from the patent office in Washington. A1 was the worst thing nature had ever done to those communities. The other was the beginning of the machine that would help them rebuild. They arrived together in the same season, in the same year, and the cleanup that followed was where the bulldozer proved what it was for. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these histories and bring more forgotten stories to the surface. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from.